yes, yes. Let's
That's all
finish
right.
that before we start another project. Absolutely. Yep, yep, yep. Let me just get the photo. We just need to do some shadows.
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. So there we go. I'm looking down here now, and we need to pop in just these little reflections as I remember. So yes, I got a big sign, finish reflections. How did I miss that?
It's going to be one of those days.
It's going to be one of those days. Yes, you're absolutely right. Okay. All right. So, okay. Want the bigger picture. There it is. Found it. Okay, so I'm going to stick it up there. And I'm looking at these reflections down here, and I did do it. Don't know what I've done with the other one now. Okay, well, let's not worry about it. Okay, so color-wise, I need some more sort of dirty oranges and so on for down here, and some maybe a little bit of the greens, which are reflected in the water down here. So that's what I'm see these little bits down here. So I might do a little bit of dry brush. I don't want it to be too obvious because I don't want to take away from the focal area of, right in here. And I've still been musing as to whether I put in a few little red berries on top of some white ink. So I'm still thinking about that. Okay, color-wise, let's do a warm yellow and touch of warm red to get it a little bit more orangey. And let's try adding a smidge of some green. I think that might help us get to where we want to be. It's got to be dull. So let's swatch it out. Get a piece of paper. Okay, just looking to see what colors I've got. That might be a little bit too warm. Yeah, so more burnt sienna, I think, rather than orange. So I'm just adding a whole bunch of burnt sienna now. So it's burnt sienna and some warm yellow pretty much. I think that's maybe better. Yes, that looks better. So that will work. And we can gray it a little bit with a tiny touch of either neutral tint or blue, French Ultra, just to gray it. I don't want it to be too bright. So I'm just, getting more into these colors now. So it's a very light sort of, it's a light tea, I guess. Mostly burnt sienna and a touch of blue. And I think I'll dilute it even further. So I just dipped my brush and then made it another puddle. So it's off the screen almost. There it is. And we'll just try that. Yes, that seems to be better. It's not quite as concentrated as that. Yeah. I think that works.
That's good.
Yep, I think that's good. And then we'll need a little bit of these gray greens down here. So let's make up a coniferous green, burnt sienna, phthalo blue, and then I'll probably mix some of that with a little bit of red, cool red, just to gray it a little bit further. Just a little bit. So now it's so gray now that you'd barely say it's green. Hold it up, you can see it in the light a little bit better. So I can write out my recipes, pencil. Okay, so this was a warm yellow and some burnt sienna. This is, I think, the same, but it might have been a touch of warm blue. I can zoom in on it. Then I added more burnt sienna and more warm blue, so it got a little darker. Then I decided, no, I needed it lighter and cooler. So I added H2O, water, and then this is my burnt sienna and my cool blue to make a coniferous green. And then I added a touch of my cool red, my quinacridone rose. So I've got this very light, it's almost sage color, I guess. So I'm thinking that will work. And any other slightly deeper, darker colors, maybe I can just use a little bit of neutral tint. Don't think it's going to need anything much more than these, just very subtle little nuances. Okay, so let's go to the picture now and start thinking about how we'll do this. So I just need a little bit more warmth. So I need that mixture, this one in here. Going to do another coat of that. And gonna bring that and go around my highlights on the water. So there's one here, there's one here, there's one on the edge of here. So just getting in here a little bit more, just to warm that up a smidge. A little bit of light on the edge of that. So it's just warming it up so that we've got that glow of the winter light, which is very pale. So I'm just going across. And now I'll go backwards and forwards across here. So that was essentially a glaze that we just did. And I'll take a little bit of these greens, pop a little bit in here, but I want it to be soft. It's hard in the picture, but I think it's better soft so that it doesn't detract. Hard edges attract your eye. So I'm just doing little horizontal strokes, barely with the tip of the brush, and just letting it sort of merge in with the wetness. And maybe need a little bit under here. So it's just tiny little glazes. That's all it is. Just the final bits and bobs. And depending on how good the reflection is on yours of this snow stone cake thing, I might do a little bit of dilute neutral tint. Especially I'm seeing it's a little bit darker, really close to it in a sort of triangular shape. And then I'll do a few little strokes down in there too in following that shape. And again, with a little bit of neutral tint over here. Just a hint. And yeah, this one looks like it's a little bit warmer on this side. So I'll make this one a smidge warmer. But he's dried a bit, so I'm softening him. It's probably, I think, all I'm gonna do. Maybe a little bit more warmth in this spot in here. Just a little bit. Yeah, because I'm actually seeing this is reflecting the yellow, this white up here and in there too. So just a little bit of extra. And that's probably where I'd stop. It doesn't need too much. I've got a basic kind of shape in here. Could be a smidge warmer there. And it probably needs to go a little bit darker right in this spot here. I haven't got a reflection under this bit. So I'm just using the browns, and then I'll drop in a few gray stripes in there. That will probably be enough. Doesn't need too much. So I think we're probably done. That's how little we needed to do to finish. No, take it back. One other thing. There's a little bit of warmth along the edge of where the this color meets the snow. So some of that warm yellowy color, the dilute version, is here, that one. So I'm diluting back my one that was a little bit more concentrated. And then right on the edge of all the yellows and of all the purples against the white, I'm doing a little tiny line of the warm yellow. It's very subtle, just adds that little bit of a glow right along. So I'm literally putting my dilute mixture right on the line between the white and the purple. Okay, don't know if it needs anything more than that. Now you could put a few little yellows in some of these, but I'm loath to because I want that to be my whitest white so that they pop. Just checking I've got everywhere covered. Yeah, just that little hint of warmth. Okay, so zoom out. See what we think. Let's put a mat around. There it is. Okay. What do we think? Are we there? How's everyone's looking? And maybe everyone can share. I need to in myself again. I don't know what happened to it. Okay, there we go. Do we need a little bit of a glaze back in here for a bit more yellow? Yes, you could. Yes, you could. But that little bit of warmth takes away from the frigidness of the ice of, this scene is cool. So it's nice to make a scene that is freezing cold a little bit warmer. And so I'm thinking I'm liking that now. My greener version, I could go a little bit greener on here. It is quite blue. But yeah, I think we're at a point where you have to make a decision what you like. It's becoming personal now. If you want to go a little bit more, you can. And, you know, I see little bits. I'm like, okay, it could go a little bit warmer right in here. But I don't want to overdo it now.
Yeah.
So yes, I could overpick it, and yeah, I could lose the effect. But yes, if you feel you need a little bit more warmth back here, a little glaze of that warm yellowy color will help bring that warmth through. So I think we're in good shape. I think we didn't take much to finish. Just a little bit of warmth up there too. And yeah, I think I like this one. I just haven't decided whether I'm going to do those red berries or not. I guess I have to do it on one of them. So I'll do some and see what you think. If you don't like it, don't do it. So I'm just going to make up a warm red in a place where it's not wet. Yeah, not wet. So maybe I'll cool it back a little bit. Maybe a bit too bright. So I'll try and do a couple. Let me zoom in on it. So you can decide if you like this idea or not. It's not in the picture. It's just me thinking out loud. So maybe a few of them are exposed. So just doing a couple here and there, maybe a bit concentrated. So I'm not really seeing the red. Okay. Okay, it's better. So I'm doing some on the edges of where the snow is, so I can get some whites. Just a few. But look, I've done a picket fence. They're all spaced the same. I know, I do it too. So I'm doing a couple really close to one another now so that the spacing looks more random. Okay. I'm not going to do any more than that, because I think I could overwork it. And I don't want to do that. So I don't know. Do you like that look or not? I'm just holding it up so you can see a few berries that might be not covered in snow.
Looks good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll leave it at that point, and we can trade to the other one. Okay. All right. That out of the way. And revert back to the sunflower. And we've got to look at it in black and white. And I don't know what happened to my vertical printout, but it seems to have gone walkies. So that was one drawing. And then, okay, here's the drawing, but it's not the picture. And then there's how I drew it when it comes out vertically. So you can, I don't know which one you chose, but either way is fine. And then I ended up doing a quick practice on some cheaper paper, which I'd never worked on before. And I'm just, trying to find some options for the arches because it's getting so expensive. This is the one that I was trying out. It's 100% cotton. It's called Fingraspuro. And I use a lot of backs of things, and this feels like I'm working on the back of the watercolor paper all the time. So it's actually not too bad. My washes didn't go down as great. It doesn't have the absorbency that the Arches does. They say it's 100% cotton. I'm not so sure, but maybe it's just poor quality cotton or something. I don't know, but it's not quite as nice as the Arches, but it's certainly good for checking swatches. So that's so you can see it in the vertical format because I can't find my printout. I've done what I've done with it. Okay, so let's look at it in black and white. Just grabbing my black and whites. Okay, so let's start with 3 steps. So there's the 3-step. Well, let me back up a sec. Where is the light coming from? Which direction is the light coming from in this particular picture?
The left.
Yes, it is coming a little bit from the left and quite overhead. And you can almost see the angle here, depending on where you choose to look. But there's cast shadow probably of that, or it might be of that. So the angle is coming in, yeah, something like that. It's not quite straight down. So we seem to have more light right in here. And then these ones where they bend backwards catch a light, and then they seem to form a little shadow on themselves. So especially these 2 finger leaf shapes there. And then this looks like it maybe curls back, or these are curled in a little bit so that these have a little bit more shadow. So we can see that the sun is inside the leaf and inside the leaf here, and the leaf is a little bit cupped. So these edges are, curled up a little bit, and then this is the cast shadow of the flower. This is it in full sun up here, and then this is just the back side of the leaf. And then there's another leaf that grows out this way, so towards the back of the picture. And this one, I decided he was too kind of pathetic looking. I just left him out. So we also see it from the stem where the light is coming from. See the light on the side of the stem here. And this is much darker in here, partly cast shadow of the flower, but also you can see it goes darker down here too. So you know that this is a cylindrical thing, light, medium, dark as you go around the cylinder. And then the darkest darks are all in the sepals, all underneath here. Some catch a little bit of light on the edge, these green parts on the tops of these, and then really dark right underneath here. And then on the inside of the flower where the seeds are, there seems to be varying colors, and these might be more local rather than shadows, although I think this one is a cast shadow, probably of this tall leaf cast over there. These don't look like they're forming it on here. So this is just really lit up by the sun. And these ones may be less ripe or something, I'm not sure, but we've definitely got different colors in there. So that's actually rather nice to have a fairly bright violet right in the middle there. So we need to look at what colors that are in the yellows. And I haven't drawn all of these shadow shapes. So those I took from my black and white, or you can take it from here too, just seeing these crazy shapes that are inside each petal. And we're just going to paint those in. So I didn't, otherwise it would have been too complicated of a line drawing. You would have hated me to put all of those inside each petal. So, and it's not critical that we have them absolutely perfect. So here it is a 3-step scale: light, medium, and the darks. So just because of the way the light is, we're getting a nice crisp contrast effect. And we know what this is even in a 3-step, which can look sometimes rather abstract in black and white. So that is, there's my scale. So that's that scale. That one, that one, that one. So without those two in there. So then I did, I think, I'm not sure if I sent you all of these. That's the 5-step scale. What happened to the 4-step scale? There's the 4-step scale. And so now we're kind of skipping this one. Yeah, to get to the deepest darks. Or is it that? Could be that, but that seems a little bit light. So we're probably skipping that one. And so there's 4 scales, and obviously it feels much darker up here now, but we know that there's a gradation because it goes from a dark medium to a light medium, and the leaves just get a little bit of light right on the little tips. So that looks rather nice. And what you're seeing here is really where the sun is. So these lines here could even be masked if you wanted them super white, but I did mine just in cool yellow. And then when that dried, I came in and did the warm yellow in between, and that seemed to work pretty well. And then all the lovely darks made it all pop. You need the darks to make the lights pop. And then this is the 5-step scale, which is, yeah, just breaking it down even further. So you see that the sky changes from lighter to darker as it, sorry, darker to lighter as we come down the page. It's normally lighter at the horizon. And so, yes, I ended up doing that one as a black and white. And so here it is in black and white. And you can see my paper's not so great at doing the washes, but it's okay. So we get a feeling for where the light is. That's what we're painting, really. We're painting the light. Well, we're painting the shadows to reveal the light. That's what actually happens. So how I started this was to wet the whole page, and then I ended up using a cool yellow and put it all on top of the petals and let it bleed outside the lines. The reason why is if we do a hard yellow line around each petal, when we come to put in the blue sky, it's going to be hard to match those edges up. So oftentimes we have to work a little softer to start with, so we don't have to try and do too much abutting, which is difficult. Okay. Alrighty. So let's wet the paper. And the only thing you're going to need is your cool yellow. Let me zoom out a smidge. There we go. Just gonna need probably a whole milk or a little bit beyond of your cool yellow. That's going to be our lightest lights, what appears white in the black and white. That's our lightest color because we know when we look at it in black and white that actually appears white. So now we're just going to wet the paper, and whatever you like to wet with. I'm going to wet mine with a 16 because it's just a bit quicker. Don't really need to do any masking because the whites we're going to do yellow. Normally you would have to mask all of that if you wanted to maintain them being white. And you still can do leave a few whites if you like. So I'm just bringing down my bead. Okay, so depending on how far you want it to migrate as to whether you go over it a second time. If you don't want it to migrate too far, then don't get it too wet. And then I'll go to a slightly smaller brush, and then I'm going to do going to pick out each petal. So I'm looking at my picture, have this handy, and just pop in my cool yellows. And I think I'm going to do it flat because I don't want it to run down the page too much. Although I do have quite a big puddle down here now. Okay, so I'll do it flat. And it doesn't matter where you begin. So I'm going to try and paint it inside my lines, but it's not going to stay in there. I know that. So that's okay. So I'm just popping it on those petals and letting it do the work. And you can see already that it is already outside the lines. So you can paint a little bit closer in if you don't want it to go quite so far outside the lines. So just leave a little bit of space around the area so you don't have to go all the way to the edges. So yeah, you're going to have to look at the picture to figure out what needs to be yellow and what needs to be, well, we'll be doing some greens as well. Maybe. We can decide we do it all at once or not. So are you finding that it's staying approximately? I mean, it is going outside. You can see that on mine, but it's soft. And how is everyone managing with this technique?
Good.
Okay. Because we're going to put the sky in and you're going to end up with a little bit of greens around it. But that's okay too. So depending on, so you can see mine is, migrated all the way into the middle. Not a problem. If you don't like it, we can do a lift out too. That's fine too. So anywhere that is yellows or slightly orangey, I can end up putting in some yellows. Okay. So this one ended up not even getting any, but I'll fill it back out. And then when I put that color in, I washed out my brush, tap it dry, and I am looking to see if this little bit of sky, you see that little shape there and little shape there, if they've got yellow in them, I would lift that out because it's going to be confusing to the viewer as to what's sky and what is leaf. So I'm just did a little lift there. These other ones have all bled around the edges, and if you want it to bleed even more, you can mist it. It all depends on what look you want. So mine hasn't gone too far out this time. It's interesting. I think it's a little bit warmer down here today. And I do want to get a bright violet. And so I will clean up around that one. Because yellow will make gray if I put down a violet here. So I'm just going around those ones with a very clean, tapped dry brush to just lift out that little bit. And then we can swap to doing a little bit of greens. So I might add a little bit of French ultramarine blue to my yellow and just pop in a little bit. Let me zoom out so you can see the color I'm using. That was me just adding a little bit, not much. So we stay in more in the yellow greens. And then I can get those on my leaves. And some of that's going to bleed a little bit too, but that's okay. Some of it's starting to dry, so I'm getting some edges, but not complete. And at the end, I think I will just soften that into a lighter area just with some water. And I have to mist mine, it's drying now. And I'll do the same thing over here. I think I'll leave the lightest one. Although, no, this is probably going to be our lightest green. And if you like, you can pull this very light green over the area of the sepals. So they have this strange pointed thing. This is how you can tell it's sepal. It's got these little things on the end. So in this area in here, just while it's a little bit wet, that adds actually blue sky right in there. So I might try and preserve this little bit there. So we could take some of this. Yeah, why not? Let's just take some of this green down the stalk. I can even do this little leaf back in here, just with this very light yellowy, slightly dulled yellowy green. And this one in there. And that will probably be yeah, we could get a little warm yellow in there if you are feeling like yours is wet enough. So just lifting that little bit, and I'm checking my sky area up here, and that has got a little bit too green right in that spot and in that spot. But the edges are all nice and soft. So when we come in and put the hard edge of the sky around it, that will only have one edge to abut. And if yours is still moist enough, I might have to spritz mine one more time. I'm getting a little bit of warm yellow now, New Gamboge. I'm not mixing anything. And I'm going to be putting those at the base of many of these. Less down in this section. I'm looking where those darker areas are on the leaf. These areas, I'm looking at those, and that's just me trying to pop in a little bit of warmth.
Hey, Sally, I'm still trying to get the green in. Can
Okay.
you just slow down one second?
Okay.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's hard when the paint paper is drying.
Oh,
But yes,
okay.
okay. I'll do my best to try and slow down.
I don't know if everybody else got the green in, but I haven't gotten it all in yet.
We'll be going over the green again, so it's not critical if you don't
Okay.
get that in. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, not critical.
All right. I think
So I was just trying
I'm
to
with you. I'm
some
with you now.
warm yellows now, but slightly
Warm.
thicker paint because it is drying. And just in some of those little lines that I can see, just randomly.
There's no burnt sienna in that.
No,
It's just warm.
no, it's just the warm yellow at the moment. Yep, that's all
right.
it is. And I'm trying to preserve this little one in here, which is quite white, quite light, and this one as well. Just because there's a lot of light on those. So I try not to get orange in those. But if it's
Yeah,
got the other yellow, it's okay.
looks kind of orangey. Mine does.
Okay, that's fine too. Yeah, no,
Oh, well,
I'm
I
just
don't.
doing New gamboge, I didn't add any red. So yeah, this is just the cool yellow.
Mhm.
Okay, and
Mhm.
I just had to spritz a number of times to keep the paper moist, but then we can dry it and that will set it. Or we can sit and watch it dry, but I think that will take too long. So yeah, anywhere where I was trying to maintain a little bit of lighter, like in here, just with a thirsty damp brush, where it got a little overzealous, I can do that. So everything's gone outside the lines, or most of it has actually. It's all bled into the center of the flower, and I did the lift around this one here so that I can come in and put in a violet in there. And then on the next passage, we will be putting in much more oranges then. So a little bit of orange has gradually crept into some of my greens. That's okay. The greens are going to go way darker. This is barely going to show any of this. Very, very light colors. Yellow is our lightest. Although it can look intense, it is a very light color. And then with all the darks we're going to be putting around it, it's going to pop. So we have to dry it now in order to be able to put in these lines in the petals, because they're the cast shadows that the petals are making on themselves. And if they're hard edged, it allows us to keep that lovely glow around the edges. I think if we try to come in and do it with the, it will be a mixture of burnt sienna and some yellows, you're absolutely right, to make those darker colors. So is everyone somewhere at this point now? Or close?
I need another minute.
Another minute? Okay, that's fine. I can't see, so that's fine. How's everybody doing?
I'm good now.
Okay, excellent. So the paper should be completely matte now. There's no shine left on the paper, but it's still damp. So if you want to do any cleanup, you want a super duper dry brush to do any more lift outs. Otherwise you're going to get a bloom because it's in between wet and dry. And then we're going to dry it so that we can come in and get some of these harder edges in here. Depending on how warm it is, but in your room, maybe some of you have got it to a point. Oh, my hairdryer is not plugged in. Hold on. Why is that unplugged? Okay. So I'm just going to dry. Probably don't need to do the leaves so much. But this area, so I can get some slightly harder edges and not cause a bloom. You could wait another 20 minutes, but yeah, then we won't finish the class, unfortunately. So it gets lighter, obviously. So it's not completely dry, but dry enough. I still feel it's not, you know, my paper isn't completely smooth. I feel a few buckles. And that's okay. Alrighty. So next step is to find those shadow colors. And oftentimes, I'm sure I've shown you this before, but I make these little isolators, just a piece of paper, and I use an X-Acto knife and I cut a little teensy hole. Sometimes I have ones with bigger holes, depends on, yeah, let's see if I can reach this one. See, that one's got a much bigger hole. So if I put it over here, you can't see what I'm trying to isolate. So let me zoom in on it. I want you to see now the colors that are in here. Off the picture. So that's the color we're wanting to mix. And you're right, it does look like something between raw sienna and burnt sienna. And let's look at a few more. This one seems a little bit more orangey. So we'll do a coat of orange as well, because that's more orangey. Another one, let's do some comparisons. So let's compare there with there. Do you see the difference? And so that's what we have to consider when we're doing these shapes, that these ones are a little bit more browny orange down here, and this one's more raw sienna-y looking on these ones. So to help you see the shapes, if you have difficulty discerning those crazy shapes, you might want to look at it on the black and white. That can help. Can't find it. Okay, so that's the 5 scale, but this is where I'm looking to avoid. So now we're going to be painting. No, sorry, we're not avoiding those at the moment. We're just painting in these ones at the moment. So it's better on the 4-step scale. Yeah, there we go. 4-step scale. So what I'm painting in now is these lighter colors here, these ones. So all of that. And then you see how much more white there is down here, but there's more of that color up here. So whichever way you find is best, we need to get those colors in. So I'm going to mix up let me zoom out. There's my sheet going with all my swatches. I swear things grow legs. Where did my swatch sheet go? Oh, there. Okay. So that we have the whole palette all together. So I'm going to get some just straight burnt sienna to start with. And that's probably going to be a little bit too dark and cool. So I think I'm just going to add some of my warm yellow to it. Off the picture. And see if that is better. So that probably is close to raw sienna now. And it's a little bit dulled too, but I don't know if I want to go too dull because I want it to be quite bright. So I'm going to start there. I can always dull it, but once I've dulled it, I can't get it back. So the other color that I'm wanting is my a mid-orange, and just so that you can see the variation in all these colors. So this is burnt sienna. This is burnt sienna plus a warm yellow. And this is warm yellow plus warm red. I'm writing it up in the air. So essentially this is diluted sort of Home Depot orange, as I call it, but I shouldn't. Pumpkin color. So I'm going to be putting more of that at the base of the petals where it joins the seeds. So I'm seeing those colors, and in terms of values, let's go back here so that you could see, do we have it right approximately? I'm looking at these two colors over here and comparing with what I've got. I may need to add a tiny touch of blue. Mine seem a little warm, but can always add a glaze. So I'm going to try that to start with, see what I think. So I'm going to have my flower here because I'm looking at these shapes. So that's what I'm working on. So I'm picking out my dilute burnt sienna and warm yellow. I'm just making a bit more of it because I didn't seem to have enough. And I'm just going to give it a go. I'm just going to start right here. And I am drawing this crazy shape. And it doesn't need to be perfect by any stretch. Just draw it with your brush, because no one's going to say, oh, you didn't get the cast shadow right. Yeah, no. And you see a little bit of it at the bottom. So let me zoom in on it so you can see what I've done. There you go. Oh. I'm just pinning myself again. There we go, so I can see it a bit larger myself. See what you see. And I think the one underneath maybe has a little bit too. There's another leaf right behind that. So I've just got this concentration still in my brush. And this is going to probably require a little bit of orange at the bottom, but that's okay. It can wait. And I'm looking at this shape. And this may be something that you might like to go back and revisit and do the black and white study. As I showed you in the beginning, it actually, took me about 45 minutes to do it, but it's okay. I did the 5-step scale. You could do the 3-step much quicker, just so that we know where the lights are that we have to preserve, because once they're gone, they're gone. These lights here, this is what we need. We can always make the cool yellow more intense. No problem with that. So I'm just picking these little shapes out. Do it on the black and white if that's easier, or the color, no problem. Either way. So you're kind of negatively painting around the light that lands on the leaves. So they look like strange shapes, but do your best. I mean, as long as you've got some jiggles and squiggles in here, we're going to be fine. So this is that raw sienna-y look, and I'm comparing it with my picture, I could go a little bit darker, but the moment I'm trying to keep it warm, I'm gonna always go darker and cooler. So I don't know if you're looking at the colored picture or the black and white. And you can use a little brush if you prefer. So these are what we call little painterly strokes. Everyone's will be very personal. Each person does their strokes slightly differently. And there is a sepal around here, or another leaf back here. I can't really tell. I think it's probably another leaf. Do you see the edge of that? So that'll help you gauge where you are, because I found that I lost track of which leaf I was doing, like I just did. Okay, so I see that one is that one. That one is, okay, this is the one I'm working on. So painting, drawing with your brush is what we're doing. So I've got my finger on my petal that I'm drawing just to keep my place. I don't know if that helps anybody looking at these odd shapes. And if you want, you can even drop a little bit of orange at the base of some of these shapes while it's still wet. And that'll make it into a variegated wash. And if it gets a little bit of a bloom, I like that because it is a flower. This is the one time that it's okay to have a little bloom. But if you don't like it, you can soften it away. No problem. I quite like it. Okay, so I've got to, it's that one. So, okay, this one. Am I on the right leaf? That's the smaller one. Okay, we're in here now. So if you want the orange at the bottom, do it as you go along. Oops, that might be a bit thick. So this really helps your observational skills when you actually have to paint or draw with your brush to get these shapes in, even though it's not critical to get them in exactly the right place. It definitely helps your drawing skills. Is this going okay for everybody?
Yep.
Excellent. And you can do the orange layer separately if you like. I'm just popping in a few more just of the pumpkin orangey color that I'm seeing at the base of some of these that will need softening off. So it's a graded shape. So it directs your eye into the center of the flower, just like it does for the insects. So you can see where we join the seed area that it is much more orangey than the burnt sienna and the yellow, which is towards the edges, of course. So you should have some nice, interesting shapes on your leaves, petals. And don't forget the ones in front of the seeds, not just around here, but we've got to do all of these as well. Now those do seem just a tiny bit greener. So you could add some of your green of your petals. Just pull that into the mixture. So I'm almost all the way around. I see that the ones here definitely feel like the shadows are much more greenish. So I'm just adding, you can add some sap green if you like, or you can mix up warm yellow and cool blue or warm blue, either one will work. Probably green light bounced back from the sepals. So I don't know how many petals we just did, but it seemed like a lot. And you don't have to get it absolutely, perfect. It's fine if you get the feel. That's more what we're going for. Feel of the flower. Yeah, we may go over at the end and do a glaze of cool yellow to really pop the colors even further, because 2 layers gives you more intensity. We will see. Won't know until we've done the sky. So if you can give me an idea how many petals you've got left to do, because I can't see what you're doing or how you're doing.
It's Joanne. I'm pretty much done, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Joan. I am too.
Okay. Excellent. Felicity, how are you doing?
I'm showing
Oh, yeah. Lovely. Lovely. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yep. Looking good. Okay. So we can make up some greens now and start getting some of the lighter values on the greens. We'll save the middle bit for last. Okay, in terms of greens, it would be nice to kind of use some of what we've got. So let me zoom out so you can see what I'm mixing. This is kind of what I've got on my palette. So here was my orange. I've used up all the burnt sienna that was in here that was mixed with the yellow. That's mostly gone now. And then this was where I added that to some sap green. So there's my raw sienna. And then this became that mixed with a tiny touch of sap green. So that's the color that I'm really wanting now with more sap green. And we can mix, if you haven't got sap green, you can mix it with warm yellow and a touch of cool blue. That's one way. So I'm just trying to make that color. Don't know why I've got oil on my palette going on, but I do. Here's sap green from the tube, so it's pretty close. That's the Daniel Smith sap green, which is one of my fave greens. It's one of the few that you can actually use out the tube. But of course, it's a mixture. It's a yellow and a blue. Or yellow and probably phthalo green. So I'm looking for that sort of color, but I'm going to be ending up pulling this into some of my oranges so that I get this more khaki. Something the army might wear. And that's the first coat that I'm going to do on most of the sepals. So we have to figure out which of the sepals. We're painting the lightest lights. Zoom in a bit. So the sepals are these ones with this pointed thing. This one here still has some light on the edge of it. This is a sepal here that's sort of bending backwards. So it's kind of curved but leans back. Here's one that's really dying now and it's curved forwards now. And you see it's got some hairs on it. There's another sepal right here. This leaf we didn't include down here. So these ones we just see more as lines because they're sort of flanking, you know, like these, but further round, so we can't see the points anymore. But we're really painting these lightest lights to begin with. So I want this sort of light, zoom back out, this sort of a color. And then I'm wanting to go into a darker green. So I'm going to be using some of this. And then I'll add French ultramarine blue to that to go a bit darker. So that's probably my first coat of greens. So where's my swatch sheet gone? So this is the green that I'm going to pop against this sort of orangey, burnt sienna-y mix. So those are the leaf colors. So this is a slightly green, warm burnt sienna. And then that one is sap green, if you've got it from Daniel Smith, with French ultramarine blue, or you can mix it with the warm yellow, cool blue, and then add French ultramarine blue to go a little bit darker. I don't want it to be too bright in the terms of greenness. It's got to be a slightly dulled green. And so this is kind of what I'm working with on my palette. I'm just using a lot of this grunge, actually. Put some more, take some more of that green, mix that in with those oranges and the burnt siennas. So I've got this, yeah, something the army would wear. Very light desert stormy kind of a color. And then I'm going to try and find the edge of the sepals. So let me zoom in so that you can see where I'm putting it. Okay. So here's the sepals along the edges. So I'm just going to get a coat of some color in there, all on those areas. Probably not this one. I can certainly do this one. So I'm just doing a wash essentially over the top of those, and then I'll drop in some of the darker greens at the base along the edge, because these have got to go a lot darker. So just so that you know where they are, that's their shape. And then at the base of some of these shapes, I'm going to be popping in some of this darker green. And so it leaves a little bit of that, some of that color behind, just a little bit. That's what I'm wanting, just to have a show of color, if you like. These have got to go considerably darker, but pretty much we're painting the lightest parts at the moment. So that's all the sepals, with the exception of this one, which needs a brighter green because he's not hugged against the flower. So I've left some of those other colors showing through, just a little bit. But we'll be making up a hunter green in a minute. So no oranges in this little bit sticking out here. And I'm using this green over here, this one, but a little bit more dilute. So that's the sap green. I'm going to put a little coat, because I've got it handy, on the shadow side of this curled drying leaf. They curl up as they get older.
So you're adding the sap green there, Sally?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. Yeah, the Daniel Smith sap green. If you've got any other brand, you usually have to add a little bit of burnt sienna. And you can lighten it on the edges if you prefer, so that it doesn't lead your eye out of the picture. Just softening that area so that your eye stops there. It's just a dilute sap green. It's not very concentrated at the moment. And then I'll probably do it again for the same thing happening down here too. It's happening on the underside of this whole area. And then we'll do the cast shadows on top of that. So likewise, if you don't want to take the pit off the edge, just dry, thirsty brush, and you can take off a little color on the edges. Actually looks like this color is coming down to where the shadow is, somewhere about there. That's the cast shadow of the flower on the edge of the stalk of that leaf. So of course you can soften edges here if you want them softer or not. There's no, right way or wrong way. I like a bit of both. A few hard edges and a few soft edges. The variation is pretty. So I was just tickling a few of those. But we've got to go considerably darker now. So while we've got this sap green, I guess we could get a little coat on the stem as well. So I'm going to leave a little bit of light edge along there. And you can wet it first if you prefer, and then there's no right way or wrong way. Just wetting some of it first. And then I'll put my paint about halfway in the middle and let it migrate around. So I'm just taking some sap green now. It might have got mixed in with a little bit of the oranges. Just putting it on halfway, and it's going to creep to the edge. It's beginning to make it feel three-dimensional. So just a little bit of lighter area is exposed, and then we'll go over it one more time and put in the deep darks of the shadow of the flower, especially up in this area. Okay, so I think I'll do a little bit of this green along this edge of this, and I'll do a little bit along that curled edge. Just making it feel round. Just be careful you don't bleed into your stem like I just did. Wasn't paying attention. Okay. So before we get to the super darks, we probably should do the oranges in here for the seeds and work our way to this beautiful violet. Or you can put the beautiful violet in first. I mean, there's no right way or wrong way to do this. So yeah, let's clean a little space on our palette and mix up some oranges and some purples. And it may need to be dulled with some of these burnt siennas and greens. So I'll have them handy to dull anything that needs it. So let me zoom out a bit. Okay. So I'm looking to make a reddish violet. At least that's what I'm seeing here on this photocopy. I don't have it on my iPad. I should have done that, but I didn't. So I'm just getting cool red and I'll add a touch of French Ultra and some burnt sienna. So a little bit till I'm in that red violet family. And then I'll add a little bit of burnt sienna to just take away that super brightness. So we end up with a really rich color. Now where's my swatches gone again? There they are. So I'm looking for this sort of a color. So let me put, that's just the red by itself, the cool red. And then cool red with French ultramarine blue. Is much brighter. And then when you mix it with a tiny touch of burnt sienna, a speck, you get this really rich, I don't know what color to call that. Don't have a good name. Has anyone else got a good name? Beetroot, maybe, or beets as you call it here. So that's what I'm looking for. And the recipe was cool red plus warm blue plus a speck of burnt sienna. And it has to be in the red violet family. So not too much blue. And I'm just comparing it to what this color here to what I'm seeing in there. And it could go a smidge bluer on mine, but no worries. It's fine. Okay, so this is just my cool red, and this was cool red plus my warm blue. And then that's just a repeat of that, but it looks like I've got a little bit more red in it, a little bit more brown in it this time. So then we need oranges with some burnt siennas to get these lovely colors all the way along the edge of all these colors right in here now. Okay, so I'm looking for those now, and I'm going to do my warm yellow, warm red, or whatever orange you like. There's my pumpkin orange, same as that one, but it's maybe a little more concentrated. So yes, you will need it perhaps a little more concentrated to go darker. And to that, so make another puddle of it. I'm going to add some warm red. So it's getting into the red orange family, and perhaps a little bit of burnt sienna, just a speck. So those are some of the darker colors. So let's swatch it out. So it's thicker mix, of course. And so those are on the edges around here. So oranges and more red orange, plus or minus some burnt sienna. Do it without if you prefer. Here it is without. So this is just a mid-orange. This is mid-orange plus burnt sienna. And this is the mid-orange plus a touch of burnt sienna and the warm red. So we've got orange and red orange and plus or minus a little burnt sienna to make it a little more neutralized. And some of it is deep, dark chocolate brown, which will probably do burnt sienna, adding to this plus neutral tint. So I don't want to lose that at the moment, but we'll get to that. Those are some of the darkest darks, so we'll get there. All right, so I don't need that, but I do need the picture handy to see where to start. So here seems to have more just plain orange, the mid-orange. And then it seems to get a little darker, but the mid-orange is going to be on much of this. I'll try and leave a little sliver of some of the yellows poking through. Do you see there's a little bit of yellows poking through here? I'll try and create that as well. So I'm going to be using a dabbed stroke. So looking at this one that I've got here, I zoom in on it. Do you see the, hang on, let me zoom in with the camera. All right. There we go. So I'm right in the center now. So do you see these little dabbed, I did little dots of color. And so this is how we'll do it. We'll do these oranges first, and then we'll do a little red dropped into those with the warm red. Then we'll do the purples, and then we'll do these bits after. Okay, so that's the order we'll do it. And I'm not going to wet it. So I'm going to start with just my mid-orange. And I'm looking right in here now. Do you see these are some of the little seeds starting to form? So that's what we're just going to get some of the color in there to begin with. So where I've got these little curls, these little shapes, so I'm just dabbing, you see, so it leaves a little bit of space in between. I don't want to paint every seed, so I'm dabbing to make it look like I have, but haven't. So I'm just looking for where the colors are. Got to go in between this one as well. So we go around this petal. And then I'm going to just dab and leave little spots of white. Well, not white, but the very light yellowy orange that we've got. I think it was the warm yellow we put in here. So just up to where the pupils will begin. So if you want some of them to blend, you have to clean your brush fast and pick up the violets and then let those blend into, if you want to have that blending happening. I quite like that. So I'm just getting this color in here, making sure I really follow the edge of the petal, because that's what's going to make it pop. And I want very little lights in here. So I'm just doing that to begin with, and then I'll go back to my oranges, which can bleed into those and look pretty while it's still wet. So I'm going back to my mid-orange, and then I'll be bringing in some burnt siennas into these as well. So I'm just tapping, and these little patterns that you leave behind are yours. Everybody does these slightly differently, and so it's fine, no problem. And I do want to try and preserve, I think this little spot here is where I wanted to try and preserve a little lighter area. So it doesn't matter if you cover the dark area, that's fine. It's just going to have an undercoat of orange. So that's where it's going to go really brown. And then I'm going to come right in and tuck right up under here, around the edge of this petal. And then I'm just cleaning the tip of my brush, not cleaning the whole thing out, picking up the more reddish color, and I'm going to drop that in along the edges while this is still a little bit wet, so that they mingle with each other. And if they don't, I will come back in with a little water and help them to do that. So that's what I'm doing now, just a few dots of water so that they can mingle a little softer. They did a great job here. And I might reinstate a little bit of my purples, go over them one more time, just to get some more depth of color. And I'll do a little bit in the shadows up here of the purples, over the top of the reds and the oranges. Just trying to figure which leaf. It's this one that's casting the little shadow there. It's still not dark enough yet. Still got to go, you know, a ways yet. And I think I might do a lighter purple where the dark browns are going to go. So that's more in this layer now. So it's looking a bit more reddish, but that's fine. It seems to have some of those reds underneath the seeds. So I'm just doing this sort of dabbed stroke to give us the illusion of seeds without doing every seed. And this sort of reddish purpley, I'll do a few little dots along the edge here, just flicking up. I think these are seeds which have got a little bit of flower maybe still left on them. I don't know. So I see a little bit of darks on some of these ones up in the corner here. Bit wet though, can't quite get there yet. And the final darks will be the chocolate brown violets. Haven't quite got there yet. I might put a little bit just of my warm red. I don't want to get it too muted. I like this little pop of bright red along the edge here. So no burnt sienna in that bit. Even though I'm putting it over burnt sienna, it's still gonna feel like there's burnt sienna in there. So the last bit is to make up some chocolate brown. So that's going to be me mixing my burnt sienna right into my violet and adding some neutral tint as well. Any violet you've got. So it ends up being a, let me zoom out so you can see. So that's where my violet was, and now I've added burnt sienna and some neutral tint. Adding back a little warm red so that I get like a red raspberry. Probably needs to go even darker. So I'm just adding neutral tint. So it's going to be a raspberry dark chocolate. That's what I'm looking for. And quite thick, you can see I'm able to write my name in it. It's really thick, thick, thick. So then I can come in and pop in a few little darks. But we don't have to do this right now because we haven't got all the darks on the leaves or anything yet. This is usually our final step, so I'll leave that for right now. We need to get the rich darks of the leaves. So don't worry about the super darks at the moment. Worry about the colors underneath those, that they've got the intensity that you want. But look how that white has made that really pop now. It wasn't, well, it isn't white, it's yellow. But how the dark against that this one leaf here is just glowing, and I didn't do anything. All I did was painted purple around it. And we haven't even got dark enough yet. So when we put in the blue sky, the same thing's going to happen all the way around the flower too. And if you want it more yellow, we can glaze it more yellow. That's fine too. So how's everyone doing on filling in the seeded area with all the different varying colors?
Good.
Okay, I decided to put a little bit of warm yellow in there. It felt too white, that little space that I left there. So just warm yellow went in there. But yes, we're trying to make the sunflower glow that it really seems to do in this particularly pretty picture. So we can start doing, once we've got the little dots in for this suggestion of the seeds, we can start doing some individual sepals, which are going to need the light, medium, and super dark tucked into the bottom bits. So you can already get a feel for where we're going, hopefully. So if you can tell me whether you're ready on doing the colors in the center. Zoom back in again so you can see if you've got most of what I've got going on.
I didn't get as good as you are.
Oh, yes, you did. That's lovely dabbing strokes. Excellent.
I like yours.
No, these are coming together just great. Just great. The one thing that I did notice is the lovely little orange bit that you've got here needs to connect. So fill in that light. I need to do it on mine too.
Oh, thank
So
you.
you see that little white bit there? It's too white. I'm just killing that so that these connect.
Oh.
Okay. When I painted it the other day, I think I did some of this wet and wet. But I know I try to chunk it a little bit so that we can take it in steps. But when you work wet and wet, it isn't easy to stop sometimes. So yep, I know. So yeah, when you're on a roll, you just go with it. And yeah. So as long as the values are approximately right, that's what I'm looking at. And I haven't got my darkest darks in yet. So I still need some more of these red browns. And then the purples probably are okay. I'd probably need a bit more gradation here. This is a bit of a big jump from purple to orange. So I'll have to do a mixture of purple and orange to get that transition going. So I'm just going to mix those two colors together, and I don't know what color you call that, but I have no name for this color, but it's just going to transition. It's kind of a dull red so that my purple translates into these so that the gradations aren't big. We want soft transitions here. So I'll zoom in a bit further to see them. So I literally mixed my purple, ready purple, and my orange, and it's made this dull ready color. So we can go over this another time to get more richness. No problem with that. Because we haven't got the deep darks in here at all yet. But it'll come. Got to get some of the color in the leaves now because they're feeling a little lacking. So let's look at colors in the leaves now. And well, the sepals. Yeah, the leaves as well. They're kind of similar. So I'm looking at somewhat more individual sepals now. So I'm looking at, you know, the shape of this one particularly and how dark it is down in this crevice. Really dark. And this sepal back here, or is it a baby leaf? I don't know, is almost, yeah, like hunter green. So let's make some hunter green, unless you've got some, we're wanting this, if you've got perylene green, this is perylene over here, just need it quite concentrated because I got to go dark, 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 dark to make the rest of it pop, because it's these darks that make this yellow sing. As you saw with the purple making that one leaf pop. So this is the color we're wanting. If you haven't got that, then you can mix it with burnt sienna, but concentrated burnt sienna and concentrated phthalo blue. And now I've got an even richer version of that. And you can add a little burnt sienna to it if you find it's a bit bright. So that's perylene green. You can try some of the, you can buy some of these if you'd like. This is jadeite set from Daniel Smith. So you can see that one's a little bit brighter. And then add a little burnt sienna to them if you find that they're a little bit too coniferous color. Because there is some browns in there because of course it's against the yellows and oranges of these. So let's sample them out, see what you think. I'm collecting a little palette here. So this is whatever I've got in my brush. That is, I think that's this
Lighter.
one. I'm sorry, what? Question? No? Okay.
No,
Okay, so I'm just sampling out my varying greens so that you can see a little bit of variation in there, not a lot. So I can't tell you which one was my burnt sienna plus my phthalo blue, but one of them was. So though I need those colors, and then I need to, that's going to be my super darks, and I'll do probably 2 layers of some of these to get to the really deep darks in these crevices. So this is where we're going to get these really rich deep darks. So I'm wanting something to transition into that. So I'll add perhaps a little bit of the lighter green. Oh, there we go. Into some of that. So that was my warm yellow and phthalo blue. Or if you've got it, sap green. And just mix that in with some of this coniferous color, and that'll be a sort of transition green into some of what we've already got. So we've got a slightly warmer brownish. Oh, I just put my finger in it. Yuck. So yes, these colors transition into it. And then we've been having these sort of orangey light colors on the edge of the sepals. This is the color we were making up earlier. I'm just trying to get to that color right now. So it was pretty much, I added orange to this color. So added that to that, and it made that. So those are the colors that we're needing to get into our sepals. So I'm going to start. I can leave those up here. So just have some orange handy if you need to mix that in with a little bit, or you can use burnt sienna, that'll probably be fine too. So I'm just looking now at my, see if you look at now your black and white, do you see where we've got to put our deep darks? This is where we're working right now. These will be the deepest darks. And right now, I think the edge, maybe we're not even quite that dark. So let me look on the, yeah, maybe better to look on the 5-step scale. This is more what we're needing. So we're painting this value right now. We've done these lighter ones right on the edges. So a lot of what you've got here is all going to get covered up. Okay, so you can go to a littler brush if that's better for you, because they are some littler shapes. So let's just pick one that's easy, that we can all see very nicely and clearly. And that's this one. I'm going to be zooming on it. So that's this one. So we've got some lights on the edge of here. So I'm finding that shape in there. So that's like a curly bracket there. And then this sort of chevron, curved chevron shape. And then I'll pop in a little bit of the deeper greens below those while it's still wet so that it'll bleed up. And then I'll get the deeper greens, the coniferous hunter greens, and I'll pop those right at the bottom. And if it needs a little help, I may have to soften this area off. It didn't migrate as much as I had wanted. So that's just one little sepal. And there's another one right next to it. So if they bleed together a little bit, it's okay. So I might leave a little bit of a dry space there if you want to have it not bleed. I'm wetting this one that curves up here. And I'll get the lighter green in that one, so mid green. And he doesn't seem to have the dark greens. So he just seems to be like that. Maybe go a little lighter on there. Just defining some of these, we don't have to do them all. And then we can do, there's another one right here. Here's the point. That tucks in around the edge of this thing. So to about there. And I'm getting this sort of middle greens. And then I get the coniferous dark hunter greens at the base. So we're doing little tiny variegated washes. That's all we're doing. Little mini ones. And those are quite challenging. And I see that there's a lot of orangey glow right in this one. So I might even wet it with some burnt sienna just to get that browny feel in that little triangle right in there. And then drop in the, probably go straight for the hunter green and drop it right along that bottom line and let it creep into there. Okay, so let's find another sepal that we can define. I'm going to draw this one in so that you can see it better as this one here. So I'm going to bring my darks further down, but there's another one here. There's the tip. And it tucks down into that space right there. And this is the back, that's the front of it. And then of course it does the chevron shank thing over there. But it looks like it's sort of bent backwards. So it's actually not as tall as that, but just so that you can see those shapes a little better. I don't know if that helps or not. So this one, I'm going to leave that sort of Desert Storm color that we used and just do a little bit of the mid green on that, defining that shape. And then in the base of that, I will do the right up against the edge of this is where the darks are, right there. So I'm tapping it on that top side. Just so that we can see it. And it looks like it's got almost got a needle on it there. And then we can define this one as well. So that one comes in here. I should maybe have come down a little lower there, but we can fix it. So I'm going to wet this little curly bracket shape there. And don't need too much light here. It's being bounced off a leaf, but we don't have that leaf, so we can go a little darker here. So get some darker there, not in that little pointy bit, and then darker on this side. So I'll pick up the hunter green now, coniferous green and tap that in there so we get a graded wash. Oh, still variegated, sorry. And that little tip thing it's got a little bent sienna spike on the end of it. Just straight bent sienna I put on him. So then I have to bring this one further down. So this bit isn't correct on mine. But that's okay. It's not a big deal. So I'm just getting some of the deep hunter green now and going straight for this either leaf or sepal way back here. So this needs to be pretty dark. So I'm just trying to find this shape. And joins to the edge of that leaf. And the darkest darks, I'd have to add some neutral tint to my mix to go even darker. Looks like it's right up against the edge again of that. It's like the core shadow bit underneath. So let's do this little sepal, which looks like he's bent back now. He's not hugging the plant like these ones are. This one is getting older and bends back, and then he'll become curled like that one. Okay. Oh, Gail just joined us. Hi, Gail. Okay, so I'm just getting my middle green. I'm running out of it, so I'm just making up a bit more. And so making sap green and mixing it with the coniferous hunter green so that I can go even darker on this one. I can leave a few little bits and pieces because it looks like there's a bit of light on those, but not too many. And then the darkest hunter green, I will drop at so really thick, concentrated bent sienna and neutral tint, or bent sienna and phthalo blue, whatever you're using for your darkest coniferous. So I'm tapping that on this side. And I left a few little bits and bobs in here. If you feel they're too light, then just kill them. So that's bent back. Hi, Gail. How are you doing?
Oh, guys, it's
It's been a
horrible.
day for you, huh?
Yes, it's awful what's going on.
I'm so
un-
sorry.
It's unbelievable. So, and I'm not even there. So I've just been helping people out. I have somebody staying in my place who lost their house.
From the fire is gone? Oh,
oh,
no.
oh yeah,
Oh, that's terrible.
it's very real. You know,
Ah,
I'm 1 degree from it, so it's very, very real.
that's so scary.
So
So
anyhow,
scary.
with you, I'm not going to paint. I'm just going to watch for now.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Well, thank you for joining us, even though
Yeah.
you're going through what
Yeah.
must feel like hell.
Yeah, and it isn't even my hell. It's just
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, I hear
All
you.
right.
Well,
Oh.
I'm glad you can help everybody. Is the air quality okay?
Oh no.
Awful.
Awful.
You got to stay in the house.
You
Okay.
have to. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, well, I feel for you. That's harsh. Okay, so this little boo-boo that I made here, that shape should have hugged that one. So I have to now repair that because I did a little boo-boo. So I'm going around that and connecting, so bringing this down the base of this little sepal and this sepal. so that we can see those. And then we'll join in this bit here and into that. And it's got a hard edge right now, so I'm just going to wash out my brush and soften that back into there so it looks like I didn't make a boo-boo. Because, yeah, that should have come much further down. So I apologize that I messed that up. Hopefully you can repair that so that you can't see that line. So now it's tucked in behind that one, right? We needed the dark to make this tuck behind its neighbor here. So we're sort of working our way up the sepals because these ones are hugging, you know, from the back now, and they're even more just straight lines. It's hard to tell what's really going on. But this one has a little bit of dark right here and in the middle. So we can get that little bit in where he's curled together, not like this one that's more open, but this one's now rolling up. And it looks like he's got hairs on it, but I'm not putting hairs on mine. That's too much detail. So that bit goes into there. So just as long as we've got the feeling of them hugging the back of the flower, I think we'll be fine. We don't have to have it all perfect. So I'm looking to see where some of these darks are now, and I'm just doing my best. I see that there's another sepal here. So I'm going to define that one. Looks like there's even a leaf bending back here that's actually a yellow one. Well, not in mine. I made that one a green one. So I'm going to go darker on this bit too until it joins up with that one, so that you can see those sepals, and then soften off if you've got a hard edge. Or you can pre-wet it and then drop in the color, whichever way you prefer. So those are sepals that are, you know, we're only seeing like the side of it. Like this one is like a, you know, a hand hugging it, and we are only seeing this section of it. So as long as it feels like it's being hugged, I think we'll be fine. And I'm going to do a nice deep dark on this one down here because he's in deep shadow. He's around the other side, hugging the rest of the petals. So I may need to do one more coat on him. He's got to be pretty dark. So the deep darks here are what make it all sing. So I'm even going a smidge darker on that one there. So I do see a little bit of a line here still where I joined that. So one more passage, and tickle that line when you put it in, we'll get rid of it. Because that's my bad that we didn't do that in the right spot to begin with. So I'll just soften that off now. Yeah, so we can see, I don't know, maybe we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 petals, more than I thought. So I need a tiny little bit of deep dark right in the center of that one. So just more layers if you feel like you need to go even darker, but we don't want to get like it's dead paint, you know, so dark that it gets dead. So I think that's probably dark enough. And if I zoom out, we get the feel that that's hugging it, it's in the shadows. But now this leaf that we were doing earlier looks so light by comparison. So yes, we've got to get some of these values in here now for the cast shadow. defining the edge of the plant here that goes to, oh, I don't see my line on that. Somewhere it's below, somewhat below there. So I think it must be, yeah, let's do it somewhere there. Okay. So whatever size brush you like, I'm getting the hunter green, maybe mixing it with a little bit of the middle. And I'm going to paint in this dark shape now. And you can use a bigger brush. I could have gone to my bigger brush, but I had this in my hand. Okay, so I'm going to go in there. So that's a shadow. It may need a little violet over it, but we'll see how it looks. So that's the cast shadow of the flower on the leaf below it. Yeah, I'm taking it to there. And it looks like the darkest darks are right in this area here, in the little cups of the leaf. Right in there. And maybe into this one too. So just, let me zoom in on it so you can see where I'm doing it. So just softening those edges because it's dried already. But yes, I was wanting to get a more hunter green down in here. Okay, so let's look at the stalk. We need some of these dark greens now to put along the edge of the stalk. So I'm going to wet the stalk to get it to do the 3D thing that I want. So I'm needing these coniferous greens. So I'm going to wet the stalk. And if you've got some hard edges you don't like, you can tickle them away. So it's just the stalk. And then I'm picking that slightly lighter green to begin with. And I'll put it about 2/3 over. Somewhere in that range. And then I'll get the coniferous green, whatever your mix is. And particularly need some of those darks close to the top of the flower here. And then as I come down, just a thinner line. And this is what makes it look rounded, that we've got light, mid-tone, dark. Because the core shadow is right on the edge here. And if it isn't migrating enough, you might have to go in a little bit more. Just so that you get that feeling of roundness. So it's like painting it, you know, the cylinder. And it probably would be a little bit darker under here too, just because of the shadow of the flower. So just bringing that over a little bit. So it's forming more of a point here. Just took that further over, that's all. Okay, and I guess with some of the colors that we're working with right now, just what I was doing there, same thing is happening under here. So this is the cast shadow of the flower, but we're seeing now the underside of the leaf. That's the top side of the leaf. And then this is the edge of the sunlit part of the leaf. And this is the underside now. And you can see all the veins that stick out. So we can leave a few of those if you like that. And then my lightest light was a little bit of sun right there, but we don't have to put that in. It's not critical. So I'm looking for something a little bit lighter, probably similar to that. So I might add a little water to it. I'm just using whatever is left on my palette now, pretty much. Kind of running low on paint. So this I'm going to wet, but it's wet. No, I'll leave it. Yep, leave it, leave it. So I'm going to pick out some of these little shapes that I can see under here and just maybe 2 triangles or so. That's it. I'm not going to do the whole lot. It's not this focal. So just going to fill that in and leave just a few little suggestions of something, just like we did on the petals. So we've got continuity and style. So you get a feel of a little bit of something underside. You don't have to, you could do every little leaf and hair, but it's a lot to do that. I'm not up for that. And then I will dilute it a little bit and bring some of this down because the cast shadow also goes on the petiole, the leaf stem. So I'm bringing that down. And then it seems to get a little bit warmer. So I just add a touch of yellow where it's hitting the sunshine, just down here. Be cautious where you're joining the main stem because this might bleed. So my cast shadow finishes somewhere there-ish. It's not really clear exactly, but that gives you a flavor. Okay. Let's zoom out. Let's see how that's looking. We're getting... I know that some of you haven't got quite as much stalk if you did the horizontal format. So I think I'll do a little bit of green on the back of this one and soften it off. Even though it isn't in the picture, to me, it feels a little unloved. So you could have wet the stem and just dropped it on the edge, or you can do it like I'm doing by softening off. Just gives that a little bit of roundedness. And I may do a little bit here, slightly darker. And soften it off. Or you can wet the whole shape and just drop it up in that curve of the petal turning. And likewise here, I think I'll do a bit more darks as it goes towards the stem. Just giving us just a little bit more form, that's all. Okay, enough with the leaves now. They're done. I don't think I'm going to do anything more to those. Perhaps a slight bit of green right there. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that would be the only thing I'd do. A little bit of green right there. And soften that into nothingness. Just to define that very edge of that. I don't think it's going to need much more than that. Okay. So now we can return to the deepest darks that are inside the flower, and then we can think about doing the background or not. You don't have to do a background, but the background is what makes this really pop because it's blue. So I'm looking for, oh, sorry, is everyone finished with the leaves? Because they're not the most important part, obviously the flower is.
We have another minute.
Absolutely, of course you can. Oh, we haven't even stopped for a break to change our water. I'm sorry, I got stuck into this. I'm bad. If you need to stretch your legs, let's take a few seconds. few secs before we do our final darks inside the flower. So I'm gonna, yeah, I've got green pea water, so I'm gonna get some fresh water.
Oops, low battery. Okay.
Okay. Okay, how is everyone back?
Yes.
Okay, Felicity's back, Gail's back, Joan's back. Okay, great. Alrighty, so we just need to do our final darks, and you could leave it without a background because right now it is what we call a botanical. And there is no background necessary. But if you want to have it so that it feels like it really pops and has that luminosity, you'll need the deep blue behind it. So we may want to practice that because it's a big wash. And we couldn't do it first because it would have all bled into the, you would have had the blue bleeding into the stems, into the petals. But let's do the darks in the middle first and we can make that decision in a minute. So I'm looking now at the final darks, which are going to be in here. So you can look also on your black and white. So this area, some dots in here, and then that little cast shadow from this leaf up here. So we're pretty close. So I'm going back to this is my burnt sienna and neutral tint, essentially our burnt umber is what we're making there. And I will add more because it's probably not quite dark enough, especially when I reconstitute it. Now I can see it isn't. So it was cool red plus those other things, the burnt sienna and the neutral tint. And it's giving me this sort of raspberry black dark chocolate. That's what I'm looking for. But it's got to be quite concentrated, so it takes quite a bit of paint to get there. And, you know, my brush is loaded with it too now. So let's see how dark my dots are. So it's going to go on sort of something this color. Am I dark enough? I'm just trying it to see if I'm dark enough. I think I am. So I'm just, if this brush is loaded, I'm not going to swap to a different brush now. So it's going to have slightly bigger bumps, but that's okay. I don't mind. So I'm looking to see where to put these darks now and leave some of this. Let me zoom in. Oh, wrong way. There we go. And I want to leave some of this reddish brown that we've got here. So the spaces, so I'm just dabbing and I'm looking at this curve. So top of that follows around like that. So, okay, I've got to do these dots now. So we've got some lights and some darks. I do see that there's a couple of darks even right in between those two petals, which makes this pop even whiter now, even though it's just yellow, all yellow. It's looking really luminous. And so I'm looking at the shapes of these now. Looks like this, I don't know, some patterning like that on the edge. And then you know how they go around in whirls, these pattern of these seeds. As long as you leave some of the color below, we're going to be fine. So we've got this nice, rich, dark center. But we don't want to get so dark that it looks like a hole. So that's why I was doing it in a sort of purpley color. So I'm seeing that even some of these darker seeds are in between this petal and this one too. So I'm just looking at the direction of some of these. They sort of seem to go 7 o'clock, 2 o'clock angle on the little hands. So I'm just suggesting a few of those. Kind of, that looks a little picket fencey, but that's kind of how it is. Maybe I'll just join that to that one. There we go. Now it's not quite so picket fencey. And I need to get some darks right in this little crotch between the petals. And I see a few of these darker ones, but they seem to form these little curves. So, and they form curves going in the other direction. I guess we need to take a look at one up close, because they form curves going in that direction and curves going in that direction, and how the seeds are growing. So I'm just dropping in some little darks where I can see them. And this is the summit in shadow in this bit here from this leaf. Oh, falling off the picture. Okay. See a few more dots along there. And I do a little bit of dark right in this crotch here. Okay, as long as the little leaf crotches are good, we will be fine. So I think we're almost there with our super darks. And I might even do some in the sepal here, this with the purple right on top. Purple and green talk to each other nicely. This seems particularly dark here. This is the shadow of that, probably right on top. So if you feel you need to go a smidge darker, I see in here is needing some too. We'll do that. Probably should be green, but it's purple now. Didn't do that little bit in there. Okay, don't want to get too botanically. This is a painting, not a perfect rendition. So that's all that's actually needed. If you feel you want to go slightly super darker, if you can tell, you could do a few more darks. And I'm just using neutral tint now. Straight. Just a couple. Yep, that's probably all I'm going to do. So the flower is pretty much done, but of course it gets lost against the white of the paper. So this is where you have to decide whether you want a background or not, because we're going to wet all around it and then we're going to put in the blue. Now, if you're worried that you're not going to get close enough, I would dry the thing and you could actually mask the edges so that you have nice hard edges, and that'll make the wash a little easier. That's one way you can do it. Or we can practice it on a scrap piece of paper and essentially do this. So what's nice in this painting is that, you know, the sky is gradated from darker to lighter. But because we've got these leaves sticking out here and here, pretty much you've got that as one shape. And then you've got all of this down here for the other shape, depending on whether you did the horizontal or the vertical version. And then, of course, you've got the little blues to fill in these little small spaces in between, sky holes, essentially. And so let me know now whether you would like to perhaps mask this. You've done this beautiful flower and then you mess the background up and you're really angry at yourself. I know, I've been there. So do we want to practice a big wash like this around something? Or do you want to do a thin masking line right on your pencil lines? And then anything else beyond it, it's just, oh, I forgot the green sepal out here. Ha, forgot that. I'm just looking at it. So I'm just popping that in now. Ha, sorry about that. Forgot something. There's another leaf right there. Sticking out behind. And he could perhaps even be a bit lighter than that. Okay, so what would you like to do? You've put all this investment in making a really pretty flower, and the background can be problematic. So we could vignette it. So that means we'll just wet around it, but not all the way out to the edges. And we'll just put paint in that part so that it isn't all the way, you know, the edges aren't in the picture. That's a possibility. So I'm just, you know, talking about what the best options are. I went straight for the jugular on mine, and I put in, I was working on cheaper paper here, and you can see I was struggling to keep it wet in around here. So had I masked it, it would have been slightly easier. And then the gradation being interrupted, it made it a little bit easier, so you didn't have to do the entire flower doing two sides at the same time as you came down the wash. So that this actually breaks it, so it makes it a little bit easier. So what does everybody want to do? Do you, I mean, I know everyone's got a lovely leaf flower right now. Do you want to try a background, or do you want to mask it?
Well, we have 15 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
So if we mask it,
we won't have
we
quite
won't have
chance.
enough time.
Right. So shall we go for it or not?
I'd like to mask it and maybe finish it next week,
Okay.
if that
that's
works
what-
for everybody
Yep.
else.
How does everyone else feel about it?
I think I would possibly ruin it if I didn't mask it.
Okay, that's good. That's why I brought this up, because I know I've been here many times with people. When you have a background that's darker, you have to do it second, not first. And so this is where we need to practice or mask it. So, okay, let's take our last 15 minutes and mask it. And next week we'll come in lickety split and do a big graded wash over the whole thing.
Okay.
So I wouldn't mask the whole thing. You just need to mask all the edges where this is going to touch. So you can even do the edge of the leaf here, all the way around here, around the sepal, all the way around that leaf. And then for the bottom half, you can also go around that bit, and then you can decide if you even want to bother masking these bits in here. So I'll leave it up to you. But these bits are still quite fresh paint. So where it's very dark, it might not be completely dry. So I would mask these a little later. These ones will be dry enough. You can mask now, not a problem. It's been 3 hours since we put the yellow down. But these ones where we just did the darkest darks are still quite fresh. We did that within the last 45 to an hour ago, and they could, the masking could bleed in it, and then when you try and pull it off, it's going to take some color out too. Okay, so let's try that. I actually haven't done it this way around, but hey, I'll try it too. I usually go for it, and but you have to feel confident with your washes. Absolutely. So next week, if you just want to draw this again and perhaps mask without the picture in there at all, we could do the whole practice, or not even mask it, just paint, wet around it and see if you can do it. What do you think about that? Just have one more drawing and practice the big wash.
I'd like to practice it.
Okay, so draw this one more time. It doesn't have to have all of this detail. It just needs the outside so that we can practice that big wash. And I'll draw it as well. Let me write a note to do that, because otherwise I will forget.
So what are we doing? We're drawing another,
Yes, we're going to draw
whole
the whole of
picture.
this, but you only need the edge. That
Okay.
edge, and then you need these edges too.
all right.
You don't need all of this detail unless you want to have a go at painting the whole thing over again. We're just going to practice the big wash on a 9x12 piece of paper.
And
As a
but
practice.
are we going to mask the edges too?
If you would prefer to. You don't have to. If you feel you can just wet it and do it, so that we can practice the process of doing the wash. So I'm going to write practice sheet. So I need the outline, not everything. Outline of edges of flower. And
All right, so we're not masking this.
no, we can mask this one for sure.
Oh.
Absolutely. Yes, let's
Okay.
mask this one.
All right, I'm getting a
Yeah.
little.
Yeah, I know. We didn't take a break even. I know I'm spitting cotton balls here. I need a drink. I got excited and couldn't leave it alone. Okay, so my mask is getting a little old. You know what? I don't want to risk it. I'm going to take my new mask and got to make sure all the everything
Charlie's
is
done.
homogenized. Then I'll swirl it after I've given it a good. But unfortunately, it's going to have a lot of bubbles in it, which is going to make it a little challenging. Okay. Well, yeah, that's a big bubble right on the top. Okay, see all of those bubbles I've got? I don't want to
Yeah.
paint with bubbles. So I'm trying to break the surface tension on those, get rid of them. Well, I might just have to pour it out and avoid them if I can. Okay, see, I still have bubbles. I don't know if you can see the bubbles, but if I bang it, maybe they'll come out. Okay. All right, so I'm just finding a little brush. I might not use my littlest brush. I might use one that's, I got this one in my hand. This is a cheap Joe's Art Stuff, and it's called an ugly brush. It's $1.50. It's crummy hairs. It's good enough for mask. So I've gone to a slightly bigger one so that I can put it on a bit faster than my little tiny weeny ones, which I do fine details on. So I'll still soap it up really well. Oops, exactly the same way. And then I will dip it into that. And then I will start popping it on the edges of everything that we have painted. So I'm trying to find my pencil lines. You don't have to fill this entire thing. So when we wet it, we'll just be going around these edges. That's all we need to do. So it's shiny. You can see where I'm putting it.
Oy.
We can practice this wash. So I'm doing a slightly bigger line in case I wet over the top of it. I don't want to have the sky doing a line in the middle of my petal. So you could fill it in solid, but boy, that's a lot of work to take it off. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just need to do these edges.
Hello, love.
How are you doing, dear?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
I fed your birds.
Oh, thank you. So just see where I'm doing. I don't need to go all the way into the flower. Just mask those edges. And then when we do the wash, it won't go into the flower. So I'll do the sepal as well as my flower petal. Okay, so wherever those V's come together, that's what I'm trying to mask.
You do more than me. Hmm.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time to do this, but I think you're right. It's going to be worth it. Where I've got the very deep dark greens, I'm not going to mask because I'm not sure it's completely 100% dry. So I'll have to come back and fill that little bit in next week. Or you can do it tomorrow or in a couple of hours. Just needs to be completely dry. So the sky comes all the way in here. So I'm coming right in there. So we'll bring the sky right into that little section right there. Trying not to do it on my darks at the moment. So this area, bit suspect as well. And we've got a few more minutes, so I can do the stems. You can also hit it with the hairdryer. Maybe that's not a bad idea. So yes, actually now I'm thinking about it, I will hit it with the hairdryer. Just gonna wash my masking out of my brush while I do it though, because I could dry that and then it's all stuck in there. So I clean it out, wash it out, and then I'll re-soap it and do it again. Better to do it more frequently than not. So I'm just drying this bit to make sure it doesn't stick to anything there. And then we're ready for the wash. And if you want to practice the big wash, it's a graded wash from lighter to darker to lighter. As we come down, that might be good to do too. It's a big wash. So you could set this up again, just need that line. So everywhere we're masking is just where you need the lines for next week's drawing. And we'll practice it. Okay, so that's just got rid of the last moisture, so I can now cover it. And then we'll be ready to jump right in next week.
Sally,
Yeah.
hi. Why aren't you doing the masking on the stem and the rest of it?
Oh, I haven't got down there yet.
Oh, okay.
I was drying this. It's the last thing we
Okay.
did, so it was still a little bit wet.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only reasoning. So
Alright.
now absolutely I can come in here and do this because I feel more confident that there's no water left in the wash. Because if there was, the masking will go into the paper and I can't pull it out. It'll rip it. So that's the philosophy behind that, as it's pretty fresh. So, yep, this will just make our lives a little easier next week.
Excuse me, Sally.
Yeah,
If we
sure.
add the background, blue background, then paint flowers, what would happen? Would it make a mess?
If
it's,
we went in and didn't mask it, a lot of people don't get close enough with the water, and then you have this halo around the edges, and that often isn't very desirable.
yeah. My
And then
question is, if we start the whole painting with background, what would happen?
when we put in the yellow, you're going to be abutting two edges, so you'd have a hard edge of your petal, and you'd have a hard edge of your sky, and it's hard to meet those together without it having a nice edge. So you can do it. It just looks a little clunky, but it's possible. There's no reason why you can't do that.
Thank you.
So yeah, you can try it that way. It's just you spend a lot of time doing the flower, and then the wash doesn't come out how you want, because you've got to keep going in and out of all of these little crotches. And because that takes time, the rest of the wash is drying. And then you start getting the blooms and whatnot. So that's kind of the philosophy behind this. Is, I've been here, and then everyone's like, oh, but I did da da da, and look what happened to my wash, and I ruined my flower I'd spent 3 hours on, and I don't want that to be something that we endure here. So just putting it right around the edges, anywhere so that you can control the wash better. And I mean, with practice, everyone can do this without having to mask. But I know we haven't done a big wash in a little while. So I'm just being cautious. So make sure that you are masking right on the line, and that you're not giving yourself, an area where you go over the line, because that will remain white. So if anything, you want to be slightly inside your pencil line, if that makes sense to everybody, so that you don't leave a white halo around the edge. So I don't need to do that section. And then all the way down here, and I just about gave myself enough masking. So trying not to go over the edges of my leaf. Okay, don't need to do that bit. So pretty much, just that one edge. Have I got enough masking? Just this one edge here. I think I just about got enough to make it work. There we go. So if I tip it up, you can see more clearly where I've put it, because it's darker. And I think I've covered every edge. Making sure that the sky holes are covered. So in there, in here, I missed a bit. I see that I missed a bit there, and I missed a bit here. So I'm going to have to double check, but pretty close, I think I am now. And then we're ready to practice the wash. And so draw this again. So the lines that you'll need are where we've got the masking. And then we'll just practice that on a good sheet of paper. And then you can use the back of it for another painting. It's not going to be all wasted. But you could do yet another painting if you want to draw the whole thing over again, of course. Absolutely. And we'll do the wash first. Okay.
Oh,
So
I see.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit more challenging doing the darker first, because you're going to be bringing in yellow. And when you touch a darker color, it's going to make the blue want to bleed into the yellow. I'd rather have the yellow bleed into the blue. But, everyone to their own, and we'll be able to see the difference because this way I painted the background in afterwards. So you see the hard edge that I've come in with. But if I'd have been trying to abut that edge to the yellow, doing all of this would have been challenging to do the graded wash at the same time. So yeah, that's where we're at. So I think
So
we
you-
can say bye and yeah. Sorry, question?
So you could have, okay, so you could have done the background first if you masked all the edges of the flower and the leaves. Is that what you were saying?
Yes, we could have done it that way, but you'll still have two hard edges to match up. So that's where we have to think about our edges. Just because
Yeah.
the background is darker, normally oftentimes the background is lighter. But and we do it first, and then of course you paint on top of that because it's light. But because the
Right.
background is dark, we do it second, usually.
Okay.
We
Okay.
work from lighter to darker. And so I'm hoping that this will be the saving grace for us doing a nice big wash, that we don't have to worry about every little nook and cranny. Okay?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll try it. And draw it all again if you want to have another go at painting it all over again. And we're doing the background first, and then you'll see the difference between the two. Okay? All right,
Okay.
so I'll swap cameras, say bye, and hope you have a great week. And we will regroup next week. And I'll find another project, perhaps another flower. Although I did say we were going to try and do something that we can eat. So I was thinking about a gatto or I don't know, piece of cake or something on a plate. Just because someone had requested that, and I did promise I would do that for them in this session. So we could try that, and so we'll do a smaller project while we wait for this to finish. It hopefully won't take long to just do the washes. Okay? So I'll say
Okay.
bye. Have a wonderful week. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay, bye. Have a good
Bye.
one. Stay safe, Gail.
Bye-bye.